Right, back with you here on the Newzroom PM, and thanks for staying on. Climate-related disasters are increasing in frequency, scale and severity, and now accounting for more than 80% of reported disasters globally. Climate change, coupled with rapid urbanization and expanding infrastructure, is significantly heightening disaster risk. Without action, these risks will intensify as extreme weather events become more frequent, severe and widespread. To assess South Africa's readiness and response, I'm joined now by Mendi Sigenu, a risk manager and a DUT PhD student specializing in disaster risk. Mendi, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this afternoon. I mean, we have been seeing, especially in South Africa and coastal areas to be exact, but even inland in some of the urban areas, increasing events of flooding. Would you say these are related to climate change?
Good afternoon, Thabo. Thank you for having me. Absolutely, yes, Thabo. It is the part of the climate change, because what is happening is we are experiencing a normal climate risk lately, and also these climate change are increasing its frequency, intensity, and also an unpredictable event. So climate change is creating a risk profile on it. And also what is happening is, in our South Africa, the vulnerability itself on its own, it's because of it's also expanded by the fact that already we are having our experiences, which is social, economic, and also the governance weaknesses.
Yeah, South Africa is seemingly getting caught off guard in most instances, even though they would say, well, we are on high alert, people have been warned to move to safer spaces and so on and so forth. But by and large, when these disasters strike, vulnerabilities, as you put it, become exposed. Where do you see the biggest challenge in terms of weaknesses as the root cause of our inability to respond effectively?
I'll start with the poorer communities, Thabo. The poorer communities, remember, disasters impact are exposed by the capacity as well as the exposure itself. Now, you'll find out in poorer communities are often staying in those floodplains and also unstable land, and also they are lacking resources wherever they are, which is also when they are hit by disasters, they are already vulnerable because it's difficult for them to recover. Now, in terms of the weaknesses, you'll find out we are having weaknesses on fragmented coordination. That's where we've got weaknesses in our disasters in South Africa, as well as the part of being reactive funding model. We rather be responsive and also on recovery, rather be preventative. Because if we can be rather preventative by fixing our infrastructures, I think it will be much better in our disasters in our country, as well as we are having a limited scientific data and also a local knowledge. So that is where now it hit us hard, because you'll find out there are warning system. However, those warning system doesn't really reach those people that in disadvantaged areas. So that is where the challenge that we are having in South Africa, meaning that we need now to deal with the communities, which is the language barriers. There are people that are sitting in those areas far. Like, for instance, if you look at the recent floods of South Coast KwaZulu-Natal, one of the guys that were in the car that was swept by the bridge, he made mention that he didn't hear the part of the warning system, meaning that we need more people in the rural areas, and also to use the traditional and also the students at the community, so that they can be able to communicate with the proper language with those people that are disadvantaged.
Yeah. How will we know that our early warning systems are working? I mean, what type of result should we be looking at? Because, you know, when we speak to disaster management, they say, no, we do have early warning systems in place. And we always ask, so how do you know that your early warning systems are effective?
Okay, Thabo, on the warning system won't be effective without people that are driven, that are there in those areas, meaning that if ever we don't test our warning system, meaning that to test the evacuation, if when there is these disasters, and also if these people, they really understand what is an evacuation process on this. So it means that if we don't test those warning system, then it means that they are ineffective, because we'll always have now a late reaction because of we don't test those warning system. Now, the proper thing is to ensure that we are doing a proper education, as I've mentioned, that with the local people exactly, and using the children at schools. Maybe we can even have a module at school by disaster reduction. Those things will assist us, because remember, a person that is studying in that primary school or either junior or high school, that particular person is from the local. She understand, or he understand very well the language of that part. And also we can even involve the traditional leaders, so that we can even have a committee in that, which is the collaboration, will assist on this matter. Thank you, Thabo.
How well are our budgets and economies of rural areas responding and maybe even adapting to increased instances of disasters?
When it comes to budget, Thabo, absolutely there is a lack of budget, because you'll find out we are talking about the preparedness. Now, on the preparedness part, when it comes now down there to municipal level, more especially with these municipalities that are small, those people are lacking the funding. We rather be attend after the response, which is on the response and recovery, rather than giving the funding, which is we are reactive when it comes to funding model. So that's the challenge that we're experiencing in the small municipalities. That is why we cannot be able now to reach the people that are on those disadvantaged places. So the funding is one of the problems, Thabo, that we are having. However, I'm still having hope, because on the G20, there was a discussion, a deeper discussion about the funding, that they will definitely now give the funding for the African countries. So I am hoping still, Thabo, that there will be a funding for those areas.
Yeah.
And also there is a challenge of capacity in those small municipalities, and also the skills, lack of skills in those people that are dealing with disasters.
Let's talk about those skills. I mean, do we have institutions? I know you are a student in this particular area, but do we have institutions that are dedicated to the kind of research and the kind of understanding and knowledge in science that we require to be able to respond effectively, but doing that at a consistent basis, not maybe ad hoc?
That's correct, Thabo. We do have absolutely those people that are specializing on disasters. We also have management centers in other municipalities, which is metros, that are specifically dealing with disasters. So we do have those people. However, I think we are still short of the people that are having skills on disasters. It may be we are short, or maybe we are not employing the proper people in this disaster place.
All right, Mendi, we appreciate your time. Let's leave it there. That is Mendi Sigenu, a risk manager and DUT PhD student specializing in disaster risk management, and certainly what we need to highlight and focus on. Speaking of disaster management.